I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask. Today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is Eating Well for Wellness. Hurry back and join us. Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask. Today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is Eating Well for Wellness, and we have registered dietitian with us, Allison Arnett of Sola Life and Fitness. Good morning, Allison.
Good morning, Marsha. How are you?
Fine. Glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
Good. Now, first of all, I want to tell you, this is our second or third time coming back here to Sola in this beautiful location, and I want to thank them for having us introduce us to you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your role as a registered dietitian.
As you said, I'm a registered dietitian. I have my Master's of Science in Nutrition Sciences, and I practice wellness in a variety of settings, one being here at SOLA, which is affiliated with Beaumont Health Systems. Okay. So I counsel people on eating healthy, helping them to lose weight, and helping them cope with a variety of different diseases and conditions that they might be facing at different times throughout their life. Okay. I work with men and women in a variety of settings, and I do work with children as well.
Okay, now as a registered dietitian, is it your job to not necessarily persuade people, but tell people, well, if you're eating like this, because most people normally eat out of control just based on, I like a lot of something, or they say, well, I think I'm dieting right, so what's the problem? Are you showing them the correct way to how to measure foods or eat portion control?
All of the above, exactly. I work with people, telling them correct portion sizes, what foods they should include in their diet, which foods they should try to discourage from their diet, and how to eat those in moderation and complement each other, how foods complement each other, and what the best foods are in each area to eat.
Okay, so for today's show, we say eating well for wellness. Does it start in the kitchen or does it start at the grocery store?
That's a good question. I would say it starts at the grocery store. And I would say, well, I'll back that up. It starts in the kitchen, reorganizing your kitchen and realizing what you have, what you want to get rid of, and what you want to bring in. Then you go to the grocery store and you bring in all those things that you realize you should have, you need, the pantry staples, the freezer staples, the fresh produce. And then you go back into the kitchen and you learn to cook that. And we here at Sola Life and Fitness, we actually teach both. We teach nutrition classes and we also teach cooking classes. So we're teaching people not only how to shop for food, but also how to prepare food and how to eat well, even in settings where they might not be at their house and they feel like they have less control because they're not at home. Well, we can even give you tips on eating well when you're outside of your home, when you're out at a restaurant or at a fast food place and you just don't have as much control over what you're eating.
So tell me a little bit about the fruits. Because I'm a fruit eater, so the sugar in fruits, how valuable, or in the question of, are you eating too much fruit that brings your sugar up, or what kind of fruit?
Well, fruit is a sugar. Fruit has it's a type of sugar. There's fructose, which is a naturally occurring sugar in fruit, and it occurs in all different types of fruit to all different degrees. Since it's naturally occurring, we definitely encourage including fruit in your diet. I have a sample of what a serving of fruit looks like.
Wow.
So if you're a diabetic, for example, and you're counting your carbohydrates, a serving of fruit should have about 15 grams of carbohydrates per serving. So you'll see I have about a cup of blueberries here, a cup of melon, or half a cup of unsweetened applesauce.
Unsweetened?
Unsweetened
wow.
applesauce.
Okay. Just when I thought I was going to eat that. Okay, all right.
You could also do an orange or an apple of a medium size. That's all counted as one serving of fruit. So really with fruit, it's about eating a variety of fruits, but choosing a correct portion size. So just with anything, you don't want to eat in abundance.
So you're saying with the blueberries, this is a cup?
That's a cup right there.
Okay, that's not bad for a cup.
No, it looks, it's a nice serving that you get, especially I think with the melon as well, you get a really nice 1 cup.
But the watermelon I'm concerned about now, would the watermelon be based on how many chunks you have in there or the sugar content of the chunks?
So the watermelon again is based on the serving size, so it's a cup of melon, a cup of cubed melon, Or you could look at it this way as well.
Okay.
A slice of melon.
All right. But why would you suggest the sugar-free applesauce? Because I like applesauce. So I
Well,
had to
it's
ask that.
unsweetened applesauce, not sugar-free.
Okay, unsweetened.
So unsweetened applesauce means that it just uses the naturally occurring sugar in the fruit rather than adding. So some applesauces have a little bit of added sugar in them, and we
Okay.
want to avoid those added sugars and just have the natural sugar that
So a
occurs in
person
the
doesn't
fruit.
necessarily have to avoid eating fruit. They just
Correct.
have to know what portion.
Know a portion
Okay.
and consume in moderation,
Okay.
just as anything else
How about,
in your diet.
okay, so that starts off your breakfast. So can a person just eat that alone for breakfast, just get them started, or they should have a variety? Because I see you have a variety of breakfast items, so I'm just wondering, from the sake of me and my viewers, that if I start off with fruit, would I just start off with a piece of fruit, or do I go to fruit and something else? Because I see yogurt is my second favorite.
Fruit and something else. So you definitely want to make sure you have a protein to balance out that fruit as
Okay.
well,
All right,
to balance out those carbohydrates.
All right, so I'm the kind of person, I like fruit in my yogurt.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about the yogurt. I see you have a lot of different varieties of yogurt there.
Yep.
So tell us about the yogurt. And one of my favorites, I'm not trying to say, but the one in the purple pack right there is one of my favorites.
So everybody asks me this question, is yogurt good for me?
Right.
Is yogurt good for me? So, and the answer simply would be yes. If you just had regular old yogurt, it is good for you. So this is a plain Greek yogurt. It's
Okay.
unsweetened, but you should know in yogurt you have 8 grams of naturally occurring sugar in any yogurt that you have.
Okay.
That comes from the milk sugar. It's called lactose. So in any yogurt you'll have that. And this yogurt, being a plain yogurt, doesn't have any added sweetener. So if you looked at the label, this one actually has 7. So it's about 7 to 8 grams of
Okay.
sugar if you look at that
That's
label.
pretty good.
That's great.
Okay. So
And in
very good.
addition, this one, because it's the Greek yogurt, it's the strained yogurt, it has a little extra protein. It's 18 grams of protein. So
Okay.
this is the best option. I would
Okay.
call it sort of the gold standard. And there are a variety of
Okay.
different brands that you can buy. This one, a lot of people ask me about because it is light.
It's my favorite.
And it does have a lot less sugar than other
All right.
yogurts. The same as this Greek, it has 11 grams of sugar, so just a little bit more. It's still on the lighter side of sugar. The
Okay.
problem with this one is that it's artificially sweetened, and when they put the artificial flavors in, they take out a lot of the naturally occurring protein in the yogurt. So while our first yogurt had 18 grams, this yogurt here only has 5 grams of protein in it.
All
So
right.
what you're lacking is the protein because they have flavored it artificially.
Wow. And then adding fruit on it increases it, right?
Increases
The sugar
the
content.
sugar.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. So then the two in the back, these two, I have to point out because they have the added fruit in them, they also have added sugar to them. So you end up with a yogurt that should only have 7 or 8 grams of sugar. This one has 19 grams of sugar, and this one has a whopping 25 grams of sugar in just
Wow.
this cup of yogurt with a little bit of granola on top.
Okay.
So people I know think yogurt and granola, it's so healthy. How can I have it and still be healthy? And the answer is something that you said, combine your fruit and your yogurt. So ideally what you do is you take this plain yogurt right here
Okay.
and whatever fruit you want. Since we have blueberries, we'll point out blueberries, and you'd add the fresh blueberries to the yogurt for the sweetness of the blueberries.
Okay.
And that's sort of the best
Alright.
way to have a nice sweet yogurt without
try that.
having all that extra artificial
All
sugar.
right. I'm going to miss that one in the little purple pack. Definitely going to miss that. Okay, okay. And actually, we're looking at how we decide which yogurt in the morning is best for us. So a lot of people are eating the plain yogurt, so to speak, but we don't read the carton properly. We don't know which one is the best of the plain yogurts.
Right.
And yet they're pushing quite a few of the plain yogurts to be the #1 yogurt of
So to
choice.
say it in the most succinct way, you want to look for a yogurt that has somewhere between 7 and 11 grams of sugar. Most of that sugar will be naturally occurring then.
Okay.
So your cup of yogurt should have 7 to 11 grams of sugar per serving, and that's it.
Okay, 7
And
to an,
You
okay.
should be looking anywhere from 11 to 18 grams of protein in that yogurt as well. And those are kind of the two key things you should be looking for, the amount of sugar and the amount of protein. And then you know you have a healthy yogurt. And of course, you can always look at the ingredients and just make sure they haven't added any sugars to it.
That'll work for me because I was under the impression that, you know, I'm eating a light yogurt, shouldn't be that much sugar, and I do put the fruit in it. I have to admit, sometimes I put granola in it, and it holds me for several hours, at
Yeah.
least for a good 4 or 5 hours. I'm stable until, you know, I say, okay, I haven't eaten since 8 o'clock this morning. Here it is, 2 in the afternoon. Is that too many hours to wait? Because I'm kind of full still from the yogurt.
About every 3 to 4 hours, it's
3 to
best to
4.
eat.
Okay, okay.
best to
Well, I
eat.
tell you what, Allison, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask Allison about that, eating 4 or 5 little meals a day. So we'll be right back.
Be a fan of dignity. Be a fan of empowerment. Be a fan of fun. Be a fan of Special Olympics. I'm a fan. Be a fan too.
Until all our daughters are safe. Until all our children have families. Until all our families have homes. Until all our parents are cared for. We'll be here.
And welcome back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I'm asking Allison Arnett, Solar Life and Fitness here today, some questions about eating well. Now, we all eat something and we're trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and sometimes we fall off the beam a little bit. So my question to Allison now is, what about those little 4 or 5 meals a day that they say if you eat small portions, you can kind of balance out your weight a little bit? How'd that go?
So for most people, this actually does hold true. What happens when we eat is our blood sugar goes up. If you're a diabetic, it even goes up more.
Okay.
And we control that by eating small portions during the day. So it goes up and it doesn't have time to go down quite as far, because if we go too long without eating, our blood sugar could drop a lot. And then if we all of a sudden eat a huge meal loaded with sugar, it can spike up really high again. And then what happens is it drops. So we have these constant fluctuations in our blood sugar. And what we want to do is keep that more regular to help maintain weight, and also to help those people that struggle with prediabetes or diabetic conditions to maintain good blood glucose levels.
Now, so the idea of eating small meals, is that for anyone that can do it, or it should it just be regulated to persons who have diabetes?
Nope, anybody can do it. It actually helps anybody control their blood sugar just the same as it helps people with diabetes. Some people find they don't need, if they don't go as long between breakfast and lunch, maybe they don't need that snack between breakfast and lunch, but they do have one between lunch and dinner. So it varies a little from person to person, but overall we want to try to eat about every 4 hours to help control our blood sugar.
Okay. So if I'm out and about, I'm a diabetic, and I'm out and about, I've had breakfast, but it's 4 or 5 hours later. Should I pack me something? Should a person always pack
You
something?
should always have something packed in your
Okay.
purse in case of emergency. So I always have some little healthy snacks in my purse, because if you don't have those, then you end up, oh, there's a McDonald's, or oh, there's a 7-Eleven, let me stop in, let me get a Snickers bar, let me get some ice cream. So we don't want to start going that route. We want to make sure that we're eating.
A lot of times when people are diabetics and you see someone, sugars drop, they say give them a peppermint, give them some candy.
Right.
Does that hold truth?
Well, if your sugar drops very, very low, if you're a diabetic and your sugar drops low, there's a significant health risk of hypoglycemia, and we don't want anybody to have that. So when that happens, and that's a much more serious condition, we want to treat that immediately by giving them either a sugar pill or something with a very concentrated source of sugar, just to get their sugars back up. But for most people, that's not the case. For most people, we can just go throughout our day and just make sure we're having, I always say pack some nuts in your purse, the individual portions of dry roasted, unsalted nuts, and a piece of fruit. And that's a perfect snack. So when we're talking about eating 4 to 5 times a day, we're not going to be eating a huge meal 4 to 5 times a day. Part of that is also reducing the amount we eat at each sitting. So just a little pack of nuts, or a healthy, some sort of healthy protein bar, kashi bar, something that you can slip in your purse and just have it if you need it.
I mean, I've always known that I always carry candy, gum, something, and I always say, well, somebody said, you got some gum? Of course I do. Or you got a piece of candy? Of course I do. But after a little bit of time, I had to stop carrying candy so much and everything, because I'm like, I'm eating all that. So I took a lot of stuff out. And I used to like to ride around in my car with fruit, in case I get stuck in a traffic jam.
It's true.
But, you can't take every kind of fruit in your car, okay? So then I had to stop carrying fruit in the car. Now they got this thing about bottled water, where you can't leave water in the car because of the sun rays hit the bottled water. Can you imagine how many of us have left bottled water in the car?
Oh, it happens to all of us, right? And then
so they just changing everything.
Yeah.
But ideally, just have something of a small portion packed on with you.
Packed with you at all
And
times.
you know, women would do that. And my concern would be, would a man know to carry something in his, pocket
or briefcase or in
Right.
his car.
Mhm.
Oh, hopefully they would remember, and hopefully it'll be small enough that we can have something to stash away. I think those individual portions of nuts are perfect because you
That
can
would be
slip
good.
that in your pocket or in your briefcase or whatever you're carrying around with you, or just even in the glove box of your car.
So if a product says all natural, does that mean it's healthy?
It's a great question. And the answer is no, it doesn't mean it's healthy. So when we look at the front of a box, that's where the company has the opportunity to market their product. So really what we want to learn how to do is read the ingredients and then read the nutrition facts label, because that's where we get the true information.
Well,
So if you
we
pass me that box
Okay.
of Pop-Tarts over there,
And this is one of my favorites too.
and we
All
know
right.
it's not the healthiest option already. If we look at the nutrition facts on it, we see there's 13 grams of artificial sugar in it. There's 5 grams of fat and 200 calories. And if you look at the ingredients, you can just see for yourself, there are so many, and you probably couldn't pronounce half of them.
Okay. So I know off the cuff that enriched flour is one of the bad ones.
Right.
Okay.
Right, so you're already noticing
right,
from the
right.
start. But look at the front of this box. It says right here, baked with real fruit.
Sure.
Right, so people all of a sudden think, well, it's baked with real fruit, it must be healthy. Well, real fruit is about the 30th ingredient on this ingredient list. Before that, you have corn syrup and sugar and oils and, like you said, the enriched flour. So you really need to be careful. And likewise with that box of Raisin Bran.
Now, why
People-
did you bring all my favorites today? I mean, between the yogurt, the Pop-Tarts, and the Raisin Bran, I could have breakfast this morning.
Well, we can talk
Okay.
about some healthier
Okay.
options,
No,
alternatives
but I need to
this.
know because, I'm actually eating these items and I just need to know if I'm
course.
eating them properly, and if I'm not, what do I need to do? Just like many other people who are viewing the show, we're eating some of these things that we really think are healthy for us. So tell me about the Raisin Bran.
So if you find yourself a good whole grain cereal, you want a whole grain cereal that has more than 5 grams of fiber and less than 5 grams of sugar is what you're looking for. Less than 5 grams of sugar.
Okay.
That's hard to find. One of the products that does have that is the plain old Cheerios. Another one is plain old bran flakes.
Okay.
And then you add your own fruit. Again, just like we spoke about with the yogurt, we're sweetening with our own fresh fruit rather than this. If you look, tell me how much sugar is in a serving of the cereal. Can you tell me?
God, how much sugar is in the serving?
Do
Okay.
you see where it says 18 grams?
Ooh,
18 grams of sugar in one serving of the
Okay.
cereal.
And I thought the sodium content was always the most important thing on the bottom.
It's a combination of things that we want to look at. The sugar is important, the sodium is important, and of course when we're reading the label we also want to know how many
Now, when it
servings are in
says
the box.
calories, it's 190, and then it says 230. That means when you add the milk.
Nope, it's 190, yeah, exactly. It's
Okay.
190 before 230 after you have
Okay.
the milk. Yep,
All right,
exactly.
so, and that may be whole milk.
This is actually, they state on there it's skim milk, so they base that
Oh,
on adding
okay,
skim milk.
Okay.
But if you look at this box again, goodness of a simple grain. So you're thinking grain, whole grain. Those are kind of the key words that we want. So again, that's the boxes, the food company's place to market is the front of this box. So we automatically, when we walk into a store, we want to turn this box on its side. And we just want to look at this nutrition facts label. We want to look at the ingredients and the nutrition facts label. And we know already this has 18 grams of sugar in it. So this isn't a product we'd want to buy. It does have a decent fiber. It has 7 grams of fiber. But if you just added with a natural bran flake that has no added sugar and added your fresh blueberries or 2 tablespoons of your own raisins or some pieces of apple even, you could create yourself a very healthy breakfast cereal as opposed to something like
Okay.
this.
So I can still eat it, but.
We have to,
All right. Well, I'm learning from you. I mean, I can eat that, but ideally, my corn flakes will work better, or my Cheerios with my fresh fruit in it.
some bran flakes or Cheerios with your
Okay,
fresh fruit in it,
okay,
exactly.
And so there goes my sugar. Okay, all right. I'll tell you what, Allison. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm learning something at the same time you are. So I hope that you're learning something. We'll be right back.
Movement. Along with weight loss, it's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
7,000 high school students drop out every school day. That's a line of desks more than 4 miles long. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step.
And welcome back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know, a lot of you have questions for us here at Just Ask and don't know how to contact us, but you can go to our social media page now. So you can easily go to Facebook, Just Ask Talk Show on Facebook, or Twitter, of course, and I'm learning how to Twitter. We do have still the website, www.justasktalkshow.org, and the famous 1-800-323-5336. Now, if you want to ask Allison a question in reference to your sugar content or eating healthy, drop us a line and we'll make sure that Allison gets to answer your question for you. Now, back to the method at hand. Okay, Allison, we're on a roll here, and I'm definitely going to ask you to come back and join us again because this is some good information. Let me ask you one quick question about eating grains. Is it really healthy, or why should I eat whole grains?
So whole grains versus enriched flours or white products. Whole grains are full of fiber and a lot of key nutrients, including B vitamins, protein, essential fats. So when you look at the whole grain, it's made of 3 portions: the bran, the endosperm, and the germ. That's what makes up the entire grain. And when they refine a grain, they're removing some of those key nutrients, some of those key vitamins, a lot of the fiber and the protein, and they're just leaving you with starchy sugar.
Okay.
So that's why we want to look towards whole grains.
And I know this sample plate here with, now, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, it looks good, but don't try to eat this. Okay, so here, this bread here would be considered whole grain. So you're reading the label of the bread bag. Should it say 100%?
100% whole grain. That's how you know you're getting 100% whole grain. That's the only way you know.
Whole grain. And I'm assuming this is cereal, not
Cereal.
the one I would eat. Okay. So it looks good. It looks real, but we know better. So, okay, the box for the cereal should say the same?
Exactly.
100%.
100% whole grain.
Okay, but cornflakes are not 100% whole grain, are they? Do you know, or is it Cheerios? One of them is 100%.
Cheerios are 100% whole grain.
Okay.
It's made with whole grain oats.
Okay.
Cornflakes might be 100% whole grain. I haven't looked at a box in a while if they're made with, because corn is actually a whole grain.
Okay.
So.
All right. And this would be brown rice.
Correct.
See, I thought it was oatmeal. Okay, so and the brown rice should say the same thing.
Brown rice,
Automatically says
100% whole grain, yeah.
100% whole grain.
And one
Okay.
of the things to look at, and the reason I put the little samples out, is also look at the portion sizes. So
I see.
again, just like with the fruit, whole grains are very healthy, but
Okay.
the calories do add up. So in addition to fruit and yogurt and all the other healthy foods, we want to even watch our portion sizes when we're looking
But
at
you know
whole
what?
grains.
We're up against so many different labels of information that's supposed to be supported for us to eat properly. Tell us about gluten-free. What's the take on gluten?
So that's the big buzzword today, is gluten-free. And you see it with nutrition trends. Words come into fad and words go out, and new trends come every couple of years, every couple of months we find a new trend.
Yes.
So I have patients with a disease called celiac spruce. That's a disease where people have trouble digesting gluten. And for those people, they actually can't eat gluten. They need to be on that gluten-free diet. There are others who have differing degrees of gluten intolerance. And for those people, while they can have some, they really should avoid large amounts of whole grain products, of any product that contains gluten. But for the rest of us, a gluten-free diet isn't really necessary. And what ends up happening is oftentimes people lose so many key nutrients, because we just described how many nutrients are in those whole grains. And when you're not eating them, of course, with our celiac patients, we can find different ways to get those nutrients into their diet, but you really would need to speak with a registered dietitian to do that effectively,
But how
as
do you
opposed to
know
just going on a diet like
what
that.
items are gluten, that have gluten in them?
Well, a lot of the wheat-based products do, but if you go on the celiac website, website, you can get an entire list of products that contain gluten. That's a really important question, especially if you have somebody with the disease or with the intolerance, to go on that website and make sure you have that list.
Now, I know that some people, when they go and have a salad or something, they say, is it gluten-free? What are they referring to? Is that the cheese, the
That's
dairy?
often the dressing. It
The
can be the
dressing.
cheese or the dairy, but it's often the dressing, because a lot of dressings do contain gluten ingredients.
Now, some of the cooking shows and other talk shows, don't want to name anybody, they often offer healthy information. Are they on point with that? Do you think they're on target with what they're giving out to our viewers?
Some of it's good information. I'll say that. Some of it's good information, but overall, you're your own person. And when I treat patients, I come from that perspective. Each person is their own person, and I individualize a plan for each person. So just like when you go to the doctor and you have your health concerns and you bring them to the doctor, that's what I do with people every day. They bring their health concerns to me. So these shows that offer blanket advice, sure, some of it's sage, some of it's good advice. But overall, you can't advise 10 different people on the same diet and have them all be successful, because every person has a different metabolism, every person is a different age. So it's hard to listen to those shows. You have to take it with a grain of salt. And no pun intended. Take it with a grain of salt and understand each of the...
That was a good one. Got past me for a second, but I got it. Okay, now let me ask you this. So how are clients referred to you? I mean, how do you come into your own for your clients?
So here at Solo Life and Fitness, a lot of people just walk in the door. We have very health conscious clientele here.
Okay.
And they'll walk in the door and they just want to change their diet or lose some weight, or they have a health concern. Unfortunately, a lot of my clients also come to me after they've had a major health event. And all of a sudden their doctor says, hey, you need to look at your diet. You had a heart attack, you're young, we need to look at your diet, or you're pre-diabetic. We don't want to get to the point where you're on insulin. Go see a dietitian. And that's when I'll get referrals from physicians. I'd like people to see me before they even get to that point, so that we get them on a healthier track before. Because preventing these diseases, preventing all the, of course, there's the health implications, there's the financial implication of disease. So we really, as dietitians, work with our patients to hopefully get them before they end up with these serious diseases.
That's good. Because I think most of the time when you mention financial, because financial issues can be one of the major burdens that cause people to eat out of control, which if you are of low income nature, sometimes you can't afford the best thing and you trying to make it on the budget that you have. So sometimes people eat wrong items based on income. Could be stress, eating out of order because you're stressed out about current events in your life, job related issues. Is there there's no key antidote for it, but do you guys suggest or make any recommendations to people who are going through some changes in their life, and you can tell that their nutritional value is being disturbed by the changes?
Definitely. Our nutrition is, everything that happens in our life affects nutrition. Food is very emotional. You think about your family and the traditions that you had that were surrounded by food usually. So especially in our culture, food is such a huge part of our emotion. So we want to we do talk to people a lot when they go through a life event. I find I have clients who are doing really well. All of a sudden they have an unfortunate life event, and they gain 10 pounds, and we need to work to make sure that not only do we prevent that in the future, but we treat that condition right then and there as well, and we make sure they're getting on track.
That makes sense, because a lot of people just, sometimes even myself, if I had a bad day or whatever, I'm looking for some chocolate somewhere. Then when I eat so much chocolate, I'm like, something's wrong. I ate too much candy. It's too late to pull it back, but now I'm pretty much conscious about if something disturbs my day, don't reach for the candy. I normally have a lot of fruit around, and then I'm concerned that when the season change, my favorite fruits will be, hard to locate, such as the blueberries and the watermelon.
Well, you do have the frozen berry options available, and those are great as long as there's no sugar added. But when you think about those life changes and you think about dealing with issues, I always tell my clients, come up with a non-food related alternative, whether it's calling a friend or taking a walk or reading a book or doing a project, something that doesn't relate to food at all, to satisfy that need, because it's a visceral need that people have to be comforted when they're going through stressful situations, and that's very real. True. So we want to make sure that they can find alternate activities that they can use rather than turning to food.
And drink plenty of water.
And drink plenty of water, of course.
Okay, water with every meal works for me.
Great.
Okay. Well, Allison, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and I want to ask you, can we get you to come back and prepare a meal for us?
I'd love to.
All right, we're going to work on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, really, every time you see us, we're trying to give you some helpful information to brighten up your day and move your life along a little well. So today's show, Eating Well for Wellness. If you have a question for Allison or anyone you've seen on the show prior, please give us a call at 1-800-323-5336. Check out our social media webpage at justastalkshow.org. Tweet Marsha if you like to, or go to the Facebook account at Just As Talk Show on Facebook. I'm your host, Marsha Florence, for Just Ask, and what do I always say? If you know someone with a disability, or if you just have a general question, don't be afraid to ask. Just Ask. I'm your host. Thank you.